broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Trying to move to the music here. Hey guys, what's up? I am Scott Moore. I'm joined by the lovely...
Hey guys, I'm Kellie Knezovich.
And I'm Blake McIver.
And we've got Ronnie on the phone. So we've got like 80% of our panel. Hey, Ronnie. Yeah, I could just jam out with this music all day. And here we are, looking season 2, episode 5, Looking for the Truth. Guys, you can follow us on iTunes and SoundCloud and keep the conversation going on Twitter with hashtag ABTVLooking. So yes, Looking for the Truth. All right, so what did you guys think? Just the general thoughts of this episode tonight.
I loved it. I honestly was wondering where Dom was.
Yes.
I'm a little disappointed we didn't see him.
Yes.
But I mean, I think it got really deep into Richie's past, and I was glad we got to see that.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said there. What about you, Blake?
I think this was the episode we were looking for.
Ah!
No, seriously though, I'm glad that we got this. We've been needing this Patrick Richie moment all season.
Absolutely.
Because it's been about Patrick and Kevin, so.
Right. Yes.
Finally, we got the reunited.
Reuniting, it feels so good. What about you, Ronnie? What did you think of the episode?
It's just like season 1. Season 1, episode 5 was my favorite by far, and that's because there was a heavy Richie and Patrick moment. And then we got the exact same thing, season 2, episode 5. I absolutely loved the episode. Yes, you have those moments where you're like, oh, where's Dom, or where are these other characters, and what are we missing by not seeing them? But no, you get so much when Richie comes into the picture. And like the last couple episodes, we've only seen Richie be very, his exterior was kind of rude or mean, or I don't even want to say defensive, but we didn't get what we saw in this episode, which I love seeing him break that wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no, exactly. It's sort of like we had to sacrifice Dom and Lynn's storyline there for this episode so that we had time to get in a little deeper. Because like I've always said, I feel like the show should be an hour long, and it's only a half hour, so you've got a lot of terrain to cover in such a short period of time. But yeah, I wasn't here for last week's episode, unfortunately, but, as that was kind of ending up, I know what you guys were thinking, too, about, like, okay, well, we know, obviously, I'm having that feeling that Kevin's not going to be able to go through with breaking up with John, and you kind of see that carried over into this episode, too. I mean, it's sort of it's realistic in that sense. Like, when people are with someone else, it becomes very difficult to actually break it off and move on. What do you think we learned from this episode with him and John's relationship, Kevin and John?
It's a weird relationship.
Yeah.
It's not a relationship that looks very familiar. It looks a little, stilted, I would say. Yeah. But he made that choice. I mean, Kevin made the choice to stay-ish.
Yeah.
When he was in the office and he called John and he's like, hey, are you working? Can you come over? I for sure thought John was going to enter the office and Kevin was going to have that talk with him, the breakup talk.
Right.
And that is not what happened. And I don't know why I was so surprised. But I was. I shouldn't be. I should have expected it, because I feel like at this point we know the type of person Kevin is. And we know that he says, oh, I'm going to break up with John and be with you. And that didn't happen. And then we see him call up John. And I think, okay, here's your second chance. You can talk to John. Nope, that didn't happen again. And so it's major disappointment. But I mean, it's I guess expected, but I'm still a little bummed by it.
Yeah. I mean, any other...
I'm kind of surprised at how quickly that dissolved. I thought we'd have another episode of the fallout of the confrontation at the bar, and I couldn't do it, and then Patrick was mad, and then, because that felt fairly abrupt for me, and I feel like there were 4 more conversations in between that I thought we might get. We didn't actually get them. I guess now we don't need them, but,
Yeah. Anything else that you thought, Ronnie, with that whole scene with and the whole relationship with Kevin and John?
You know, we watch it and you get to see Kevin. You know, he's looking at those cards, obviously reminiscent of his moments with Patrick.
Yeah.
And I kind of have a hard time like feeling bad for Kevin. You know, Kevin really just did the whole, you know, he wanted to play wishy-washy on both ends for as long as possible, and then Patrick finally said, no, I'm not having it. And so it was interesting to see that, you know, his emotion right before he made that phone call. But I actually like don't feel bad for him. You know what I mean? And then we do see that weird, awkward, you know, John, you know, walking in the room, and we haven't really seen much of John. So we've seen him in episodes, but never like seeing him have conversation.
Right.
And it was really cool to see, like, he was so pleasant and so happy and loved his man, but yet he didn't know anything about what was going on. So that guilt that Kevin has, we as viewers got to kind of like sit in it, and that felt interesting to watch.
Yeah, it was.
You
You're
know,
right.
I became
right.
an anti-Kevin fan pretty quickly in that little scene.
Yeah, it was sort of like we were being the fly on the wall in that situation. But it's true, because like you were saying, Ronnie, is that we haven't really actually seen John except like, what was it, 2 episodes ago, where we just saw a brief glimpse of him from across the way. I'm like, oh, well, Kevin has a type because he kind of looks like Patrick.
I was yelled at on Twitter though that we did see him in season 1. People came.
But we've never
we've seen him, but we've never heard.
Right, we never heard him. We've never had him in that conversation.
You know,
Right.
But it was the first time that, like, this season we saw him 2 episodes ago, and it wasn't him talking and everything. So it's kind of interesting because, of course, we're seeing it from these characters' perspective. We're seeing it from Patrick's side, so we don't know really anything that's going on really in John and Kevin's relationship. And, you know, is John being completely, you know, like, there's this whole other side that we can only speculate about because we don't know.
Right.
Like, if John's being, you know, faithful, and how healthy is their relationship. But, you know, from what we see, it seems like Kevin has taken the easy route of being able to have his fun right now and not have to break up with John. So it'll be interesting to see, because of course we only have 10 episodes and we're already halfway through. So there's a lot of terrain to cover in just a few episodes left. So it's sort of like, I think that's why we had to be so fast paced and kind of move on we did. Like, Patrick kind of now going back towards hanging out with Richie. I mean, I'm just like, I don't know, just so many like unhealthy choices. I mean, at least Patrick finally stood up for himself.
I was gonna say, I feel like we saw a lot of character growth with Patrick, which I really enjoyed seeing, and I was happy to see that. I mean, he came out super strong the first 5 minutes of the episode. Sticking up for himself is great.
And seeing that he grew, because and realizing what he was doing with Kevin wasn't healthy for anybody. And so that was good to see that. But at the same time, he's going right back into trying to hang out with Richie, and I'm just like, ugh.
I did like, though, how organically it was told, because it was that brilliant moment of, I'm going to Facebook stalk my ex just a little bit, just like kind of see, I just like kind of want to know what this Brady guy is. Oh, you need help. Oh, well, maybe I'll just do that. Like, it was so organic. It was such good storytelling. It was like, because there's so many awkward ways they could have forced this episode to happen, and I thought, like, how perfect.
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree with you again, because it did feel that way. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I like the way that it was, where Patrick, in his mind, he could rationalize, like, oh, this makes sense, like, because he accidentally did the stalking, it accidentally was a perfect situation. It was like, oh, this is gonna be perfect. But yeah, all that growth with Patrick was so cool. He was a hard ass at the beginning, and he spanked the monkey, so he was getting his little emotions out. Like, everything, like just said, was so organic about how it did go. And I do like the way that his, you know, roommate there, Augustine, was, you know, kind of the voice of reason, but also the support, and just exactly what a best friend would do in that situation. Like, oh, be careful, go get your man. But, like, you know, it was exactly what you would assume that best friend would say, and how he would support you in that.
And of course, you have Patrick saying, oh, I'm not trying to get back with him. This isn't a rebound. I just want to be his friend. Yeah, all right. Okay.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Meanwhile, all of us watching are like, no, but we want him to be back with him.
Yeah.
Like, we're all rooting for, like, this moment, which is super exciting.
Right.
Well, I'm going to throw it out the bombshell later, but not yet, about what I think for the whole thing. But it was interesting to see Augustine too, like, being that kind of normal kind of friend, because he's been going through so much in the past, you know, season and a half, that I was like, wow, he's actually being like a normal, like, friend here, and it's not so self-centered, and he's not going through all of his issues either. So it was nice to see that. But yeah, I agree with you, Blake. It did feel very organic, and it felt like something you would do with an ex. Like, okay, I'm gonna go help him move, or I'm gonna go help him whatever with the truck. Like, it did feel like something that was happening, you know, that would happen with any of us. And I like the fact that he kind of did get a chance to kind of learn a little bit more on, and we as the viewer got to learn a little bit more on Richie's backstory there, which we haven't had a chance to really do before. So that was really cool, and we see that we're kind of setting up for future story arcs with Richie as well. So I thought it was really well done, and seeing his cousin and
she was fantastic.
She was so good,
just fantastic. And
Ceci.
for me, the big bombshell of this episode was the finding out about the $200 that he borrowed to get the suit to go to the wedding. Like, that broke my heart. I was like, oh God, it just makes everything even worse.
Exactly. It's like magnifies and how awkward it was, and like you could feel for Patrick, because I give Patrick again a little bit of props for being able to go there and knowing, you know, how that whole thing played itself out and how his family must look at Patrick in that light of you know, being the one that kind of broke his heart and everything. So,
and do we know if Patrick knew that that's how they felt about him, or was this all brand new knowledge? It seemed like Patrick was reacting.
He acted
this was all new knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, he knew they had a bond, but he didn't know that, darn, he's talking to Ceci, you know, Richie talking to Ceci, his cousin. Like, Patrick didn't know it was that deep, did he? Or was that
No, I don't think he knew to the extent of how Richie really felt until this episode.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, like, just the fact that he had to be there and be around the family, because he didn't know how much they knew, and neither did we as a viewer. I was wondering, like, when we first met, you know, his cousin Ceci, I was like, has Richie said anything? Like, I don't know. I didn't know how out Richie was to the rest of his family, and I didn't know, you know, that kind of situation, which we kind of learned throughout this episode, how much he has been and what's been going on there. But yeah, I don't think we actually realized how much, you know, it really hurt Richie.
I think Patrick...
And I love... Oh, sorry.
So, no, go ahead, Ronnie.
I said I like the moment where, you know, it's two different guys from two different worlds, and then you have Patrick kind of saying, almost kind of being, you know, with a little bit of an imposition, talking about, well, you know, my mother, you know, I didn't really want to have those conversations with her, and I did, and you're sort of forced to, or else you're forced to lie, and, you know, making a clear, distinct, you know, comment like, I understand that my mom's situation is different than your dad's situation, but this is kind of like what worked for me, and maybe it could work for you. I mean, it was the best way he could have given information to Richie, advice or whatnot, whether it was sought after or not. But, like, it was a really, like, man, maybe they are going to just be friends. Obviously, we know that we want more from this, but, like, it was Patrick's really sincere way to do so. Like, really be a friend and really give his opinion. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, what did you guys think of that whole scene with him kind of giving his opinion on how to go towards his dad and everything?
Well, we kind of got back to their original banter that sort of made their initial chemistry work. You know, I feel like we kind of had that thing going again with them that, you know, Patrick kind of, he does want to be the therapist. Like, he does want to push a little bit in that direction, which is fine. It's like, you know, sometimes he pushes too far, and it's like, bless his heart. But, you know, but I think that's kind of great. They both have insights to share with each other, and coming from different worlds. I think that's what makes the relationship, I think for us fans, that's what makes it even more so like, yes, please, just be together, make it work, figure it out.
You know, the only thing I had was Patrick was like, because we haven't, especially as a viewer, gotten to know what the whole backstory is with him and his dad as much with Richie and his dad, I was kind of like, okay, back off a little bit, Patrick. You don't really, I mean, you could have an idea from your perspective, but at least he did say that, because if he didn't say the whole thing, like, my mom's situation was different, it was going to drive me crazy, because he has really no idea, like, maybe how bad it was with Richie and his dad. And I feel like that's something we're going to learn in the next couple episodes.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope we get a big dramatic scene. Like, I hope it's like Edward James Olmos playing Richie's dad.
Right.
Giving you angry, homophobic.
Exactly. Yeah, we need something like that. And I'm hoping that we're going to get that payoff, because now we've gotten that tease that there have been issues, and maybe now he'll have the courage to confront his father in the next couple of episodes. So we'll see. But yeah.
I kind of feel like when Patrick was talking to Richie, that whole conversation, I felt like it wasn't so much, well, yes, I think he did want to be kind of his therapist and be there as his friend, but I do also think there was some intention of, look, I'm gonna try to talk to you and get you to open up, so I can also open up, so maybe we can try to start something again, even though you're with what's his name?
Brady.
Even though you're with Brady, and I just ended things with Kevin. Like, I kind of think there was some hidden motive in the back of his mind, maybe like, oh, if we kind of touch on this subject, like, maybe we can kind of get back to where we used to be, perhaps. I don't know.
Oh, that's debatable. I don't know. I mean, yes, I think it's the motive in the sense that, like, he likes him and loves him and all these things and would like it to go back to where it used to be. But I thought Patrick carried himself pretty well in not doing so. Like, he joked about it. He's like, oh, I have motives, ha ha ha. Like, he actually was pretty like just trying to be a friend, whether he loves him or not. Like, I was really like impressed by that. There were those couple of moments that did kind of lead you to be like super excited, like, oh my gosh, they're gonna have a nice little moment here, with the burrito and the food on Patrick's face, and oh my god, the way Patrick like turned his head into Richie, like taking the food off, like it was all very adorable. But I thought Patrick really held it down pretty good for the most part.
I think the reason I'm saying that they kind of had a little moment here and there is especially at the end of the last conversation when he kind of told him everything about, yes, that night that you opened up to me, Kevin and I did hook up and I want to tell you the truth and everything about that. I think it's kind of like, okay, I want to come clean.
Yes.
So that maybe, in the future something could happen. But also I think he did want to come clean for his, for his own guilty conscience. But yeah, I think something could very well happen with them.
Yeah,
it was played so well too, because even when Patrick was making that comment, like I'm just a huge fan of Richie. I just love watching him. He's awesome, and I felt like I was like taking in the information myself. Like, it felt like I was breathing harder. It took me to the moment where Richie was standing there last season saying, "Listen, I'm this close to falling in love with you." Like, I went back there, and I think that scene was just executed so well because I felt it as such while I was watching. Maybe I had a drink or two, but
but yeah, I was getting back to what you were saying, Kelly. I thought it was great that he did come clean with that whole situation with Patrick, with Kevin, and how that kind of was all messy and convoluted, because he really didn't have to. He
definitely didn't have to. And there's a reason why he did it.
Right, and I thought that was really good that he was able to do that, and sort of in those ways kind of like starting completely fresh, and because he had no reason to have to do that. So and the other thing I thought was great about this episode too is that there really wasn't a ton of action, or it was really the majority of them hanging out and talking.
Yeah, it was character focused.
Which was all character focused, exactly, and it was very, it was really well done, because a lot of times you think, okay, you're watching two people talk and have lunch and driving around and talk, it could be very boring, but the fact that the way they handled it was so well done, I thought, because it felt very organic, like you were saying earlier, Blake, and I really felt like we got to a lot of the backstory and a lot of the stuff there, and it was a way of kind of having this clean start, because now we're in the middle of the episode or middle of the season, and now we're kind of going to be going towards the latter part of the season, and now we're seeing the direction the show is wanting to take now.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting indeed. And we also had the B storyline there again with Augustine and Eddie.
Yes.
Which what did you guys think of that? It was
great.
Yeah,
I loved it. I loved it. I love that we got to see more of Eddie. I love that we got to see a little bit different side of him. I liked the playing hooky thing. I liked the whole like I'm pulling the positive card today. Like it was just so real, and so he's such a likable character.
Yes.
And like everything that Daniel's doing with this character is so it's so great to see, because like it proves what a truly gifted actor he really is. And I think we haven't gotten to see that. Those of us that all just see Mean Girls in our minds.
Exactly.
Like here's a great actor that has not had an opportunity like this, and now we're getting to really see his chops, and it's great.
It is great, and he's so much fun.
Yeah.
He adds that side that we were wanting, that campy fun side. I mean, even his whole comment when Augustine started to ask him about how long have you known? He's like, oh, Barbara Walters is retired. And you're not replacing her.
Loved it.
Yeah, that was great. And
about it.
Yeah, he has this great comedic relief, and I also. I love the fact that we're seeing a character too that we as we've talked about before, sometimes people accuse the show of being very stereotypical and stuff, and I like the fact that we're not seeing a ripped guy that's like we're seeing a bear. We're seeing a different type of the side of the community, which I think is important for people to see that as well. And I love the fact that Augustine and they're having this relationship kind of developing right in front of our eyes, which has been really fun to watch.
It worked out perfectly too. Like, I loved seeing it through Augustine. His inquisitive nature. Where's Eddie? Eddie is. We're not romantic yet, and even last AfterBuzz, recap show last week, we didn't know. No, we still want to know: have they hooked up? Have they hooked up? So this sort of answered that question, and it was really fun to go along that little journey through Augustine. And again, we keep we said it 100,000 times that Augustine is growing, but he's been down in the dumps. Moments like this are super awesome. I love him feeling embarrassed. I love his he was coming on and Frankie J. Alvarez, I think, plays it beautifully, and I was really into that moment. That's very awkward. And then when what's his name says, "Hey, you don't give up that easily," that was also fun.
It's great.
Yeah, it was great, and it's great seeing Augustine too, being able to have this job, so he feels like he has a purpose, and now being able to have this chance of this relationship that's just developing in a nice, slow, pace. Like you were saying, we didn't know last episode like where we're at really, and so it was nice to see that. It was also nice that the writers answered that question for us, and it's just, again, it felt very real, and I felt like it was nice to see that.
Honestly, I had a small I had a small part of me thinking, as much as we were seeing Eddie, we didn't know where Eddie was, going to fill back with Augustine.
Right.
In my mind, was like, well, maybe nothing will materialize through this. Maybe this is going to be a heartbreak for Augustine on some level. But I thought maybe the only way he is going to feel good about everything is if he, takes the Patrick route and, tries to reach out to an ex. And I thought maybe we'd see Frank, in one of the upcoming episodes. I know the actor is supposed to be in one of the episodes, so I don't know. I thought of Frank, and I don't know if that means anything, but that's actually where my mind went when I saw a lot what was going on.
I was a little skeptical when he went over with the soup and, Eddie wouldn't open the door. I was like, okay, he for sure has another guy there.
Yeah.
And that was not the case. And then when they started they were dancing and they started making out, I was, when he pushed him away, I was like, oh my gosh, you are just playing him. But, I still a little skeptical about the whole thing because I guess I kind of feel protective of Augustine. Like, I don't want him to get hurt just because I feel like he's actually putting forth a ton of effort with Eddie. I mean, trying to get to know him, but also bringing the soup and, trying to get him to open up. And we see major character development with him too, as opposed to the guy that he was when he was with Frank. We just see a totally different side of him, and I kind of just don't want him to get hurt.
Yeah, much healthier side that we didn't see with him before.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But at the same time, I mean, maybe this whole setup, not saying that they won't have a relationship, but maybe it was like Eddie was a way to come into the picture so that way Augustine could get the job, and that could have been part of it too as well.
That's
like,
true.
Who knows? But I like what they're doing with this, and it's like I'd like to see where this goes.
Absolutely.
I don't want to see him put it away. So I feel like that's going to be an interesting thing in the next couple episodes too. Is like one of them going to get scared? Is Eddie going to get hurt?
Yeah. Is Augustine going to get hurt?
Right.
How's Frank going to come into this whole thing?
So it'll be interesting to see. But I definitely love the storyline, and I added a little bit of relief to a little bit more of the serious side of what was going on with Patrick and Richie in this episode for sure. So do you guys have any other final thoughts? Anything else you wanted to mention from tonight's episode?
I just loved the episode.
Yeah, it was great.
It was so good.
Anything we didn't touch on that we should have?
Other than the fact that Dom was not in the
Yeah, since you mentioned and Doris.
We missed Dom and Doris, but these episodes are necessary.
That's true.
Right, we kind of needed these episodes for sure. We needed this, and it was great. So I guess we'll move on to predictions then. Yeah.
Predictions.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
All right, Ronnie, I'm putting you on the spot since you're on the phone. You can go first tonight, and you're freezing in New York.
All right, so my prediction will be, I really kind of am taking, it's so funny because I love the Richie Patrick thing, we all do, but I'm taking such an interest on Augustine. I think what Kelly said made a lot of sense. We don't want him to get hurt. And I do get a little curious about Eddie's, like, right before they did start, going at it, he did say, hey, this is just, I don't know the exact words, but this is just a playful thing, kind of, is how I took it. And we've seen Augustine get beat up. So I think looking into the next episodes, my prediction is that Augustine's going to really go somewhere, and he could potentially get hurt. And I don't know where that hurt is going to come. Eddie, is it going to be, Frank jumps back in the picture on some level? And forgive me for throwing Frank back in the picture. It's just something that maybe I'd like to see. But, I think that's what we're going to see. I think next episode we'll also see... Oh, I guess what is the preview? Kevin is saying he's going to leave. Oh, again, woe is me, Kevin. I don't care. Kevin, woe is me. Like, you made that bed and you had multiple men sleeping in there. We can't feel sorry for you. So I want to see Richie. My prediction is I want to see Patrick continue to be the hard ass and not go back there. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. Kelly, Blake, whoever wants to jump in first.
I like that. I mean, I really like the direction that Patrick's character is moving in. I think that he's strong, and we need to see that, and I hope he stays strong. I really do hope that something happens with Richie. I think his family kind of has a negative perception of Patrick, as I think they should. You know, they know that he broke his heart. But I hope something ends up happening with Richie and Patrick. You know, I hope Brady. Why can I never remember his name? Brady,
Ginger.
That one guy. I hope he gets out of the picture. And then I don't know. I'm a little fearful of Augustine and Eddie. I like Eddie's character, like how you were saying, Blake. I really like him, and he's funny and he's great. But I just don't know if he's great for Augustine. I don't think they're. Maybe if they just stay friends, that might be the case. But I don't think Augustine will see it that way. I think he might want something more. So I just don't want him to get hurt. A little fearful of that.
Yeah, you're totally right when it comes to that. And Augustine obviously is ready for something more.
Ready,
maybe Eddie's not able to give that at this point.
He just wants to have fun,
Yeah, at this point he may just not be able to.
That's true.
Blake,
all right,
predict something.
Okay, my careful prediction is I think probably at the same time Kevin's going to get rid of John, Richie's going to get rid of Brady.
And they're going to be fighting
and
over
Patrick is going to have to actually make a decision, like a moral-free decision, because either could potentially work, and I think he's going to be put in that position.
What do you think he's going to choose if he gets put in that position?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because kind of going on what you were saying, that's sort of what I'm thinking, but I almost feel, and this is just my opinion, but I think that in a way, you know, assuming we have a season 3, that Patrick's going to have to step away from both of them. And yes, and I think, you know, this kind of set that up with Richie with the whole friends thing. I think that's what they're going to have to do right now, is like for Richie to be able to regain the trust of Patrick, for them to get to that place. I'm not saying they won't get back together, but I think for the rest of the season, it's going to be able to see, can Patrick be able to maintain that friendship, or is it going to be too difficult for him? And I really think between both of those, it's such an unhealthy situation for Patrick, for both, either with Richie and Kevin, that it's almost like he needs to take the time to focus on himself and see, you know, what we have when we go into season 3. So they better do season 3.
That'll probably be the cliffhanger. It'll probably be.
I really do. I think it's something like you were saying, Blake.
Yeah.
I really do think that it's going to get to the point where it is going to be like Patrick's going to have to choose, and how is he going to? And maybe that choice is not being with either of them at this point, even though.
Well,
you know,
you guys, it's so funny. Listen, I'm loving your guys' commentary, because all of those predictions made me think, wait a minute, Patrick did say in the preview he wants to be a fun gay. So he's like working on this whole new thing. Like he's always super serious. He wants to be a fun gay. Right. You guys, what if next episode we see Patrick unknowingly, unsuspecting, you know, that he is actually looking for anybody, some new person comes in the picture? Wouldn't that be amazing?
No, that'd be so confusing.
No, too many people. No, I'm just saying he needs to be the fun gay single. And then he's got to figure his shiz out. And then once he does, then he can be able to make the right decision. And maybe that's something they have to wait for the next season. But yeah, I think because there's just too much stuff, he's got to work through that. So that's my prediction for sure. And I'd love to, you know, we didn't see Dom and Lynn, but I'd love to be able to see Lynn as we move into the next couple episodes, because we see they're going to be back in it, is that he can let his guard down too, because I feel it's sort of like the situation of Eddie. Eddie's like, you know, Lynn in the same sense as like they're hard to be able to put their guards down and be able to openly, you know, be in a relationship. So you have these characters that are trying to work on that. So it'll be interesting to see with Lynn, and we'll see what happens with Doris and her man too. So there's a lot of other stuff going on. So yeah, it was a great episode. I'm loving where they're going with this season. So yeah, I'm looking forward to where we're going to be going.
Yep.
Indeed.
So where can they find you guys? Ronnie? I'll start with Ronnie since he's in New York. And
okay,
he's...
great. Randomly Ronnie Jr. is pretty much all my stuff handles, website, everything. But I did want to say there's also some really great content online. Obviously, the show creators do things on YouTube, so you can look at that. And we found like a podcast through HBO Digital called Talking, and they actually did a really good thing this week about the Latino community and the gay culture, you know, based on this episode. Raul Castillo makes conversation in that. Right. It's actually really, really good. So as we're talking about social media, there's some great content online for this show. So obviously people love it.
Yeah, and I think it is important too to be able to see all the different sides again of the gay community. So it's great that they're doing that. And now we just need to have them come on here.
Yes, indeed.
Where can they find you at, Blake?
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Blake McIver.
And you can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at Kellie Knez.
Awesome. And you can find me on Twitter at SMan80. That's SMN80. And here on Thursday nights with Archer. For everyone, have a great week. And stay warm there, Ronnie, in New York. Until next time, everyone. Have a good one.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.